do you find the legal description of a property? Well, I'm Tiffany Weber. I'm a real estate attorney in North Carolina, so I have lots of experience with this. But first, before you go looking for the legal description, you need to understand what it is. And the legal description for a property is the way to find on the ground where exactly the boundaries of a property are. And you might be thinking, well, I know the address. Isn't that good enough? Or I know the parcel number. I looked at the county to know, this is the tax ID, etc. And you might be thinking that is enough to identify the property. And it's kind of like the address is kind of like the name of the property, but it doesn't tell you exactly where the corners, the lines, etc. are located on the earth. So the legal description is what does that for you. And there are two main types of legal descriptions. The first being metes and bounds. And that is whenever you see something on a deed that's like beginning at the corner of so-and-so's property, thence running south 0 degrees, 5 minutes, 32 seconds west, 180 feet to a point, or even before that, beginning at the rock in John's corner and then going to the tree in Mary's corner, and so on and so forth. So you start at a point of beginning and then you list your lines out in that legal description until you eventually get back to the point and place of beginning. Now, to know what that looks like, you have to have a mapping software. There are many online for free. There are also paid versions, but you have to take that metes and bounds legal description, put it in a software to know what the property looks like. The other type of legal description is by reference to plat or map. And this is what most people have if you live in a subdivision that has like an HOA. Like for example, my house is like lot 197 of Davidson Downs. I don't think that's the exact lot number, but whatever lot number of Davidson Downs on Plat Book 2, page 5 in the Iredell County Registry. So it's much more simple. That directs you to a plat that's recorded with the county, and you can actually see in relation to all the other lots where yours is located, the different boundaries. And the plat will actually give you a way to draft a metes and bounds legal description if you want to. It's just much more simple to refer to the plat. So now that you know what a legal description is, how do you find it? Well, you have to go back to the conveyance instrument. So if you're looking for the legal description to property, then you have to go back to the deed where the current owner acquired the property. You need to remember that you can only receive in a deed what is in that legal description. So if the legal description has an error, let's say it was supposed to include 2 lots and only included 1, then the person only received the 1, even though they might have believed they got 2. So you go back to the deed. And where do you find the deed? Well, it depends on what information you have to start with. And for most people, they have an address. And most counties, at least in North Carolina, have a system called GIS. I honestly don't know off the top of my head what that stands for, but it's a way to see an aerial view of properties and find their location. And in Iredell County, we have a GIS system where you can type in the address or the parcel number, and that will bring up a lot of information about the property, like the current owners, the tax bill, the appraisal card for you to find the value, and the most recent deed. So that can be a really good way to jumpstart your research of finding the legal description. You can click on the most recent deed through the GIS and it will link you to the Register of Deeds site so that you can look at the legal description of that deed. Now, let's say you don't have the address, but you know the current owners and thereabouts where the property might be. You could search the Register of Deeds by the owner's names, and then you just have to look through all of the line items in the index until you found the appropriate deed. You pull up that deed and you would see the legal description on the document. So the legal description is the most important part of the deed, I would say. Of course, aside from who is buying and who is selling, or who's granting and who is receiving. But without that legal description, you don't know what you're getting. So it's important that you know how to find the legal description of a property and that you know what it actually means and how you can refer back to it. And what does that mean as far as the actual location of the property on the ground? So there you have it. That's how you find a legal description.